Welcome to another edition of Everyday Prepper. This part of talking about our foundational skills and equipment and gear that builds our everyday carry. And of course, our everyday carry is more like what we actually bring with us. And mostly it has to do with gear, but it's also knowledge that we have and skill sets that we can use on an everyday basis to get ourselves out of pickles. And I just want to talk about illumination in this particular video. Light and lighting in general are very important. It could be a traditional flashlight, could be a headlamp. But, overall though, something that you can have that's going to be easy, portable, you can just slip in the pocket, that's low profile, that has at least a decent runtime. And that's kind of something that we have to think about. Something that is going to be applicable for your use and give you enough output so that you have options. Maybe a multi-mode light, maybe a higher output light. Maybe it's budget constrained and you just get the best you can afford at the time, and that's cool too. But let's just talk about lights in general because there's a lot of misconceptions about light output in particular. Nowadays, I would probably stick with LED lights. They're very, common anymore. It's not like it's a rare thing. And I would also say that if you can go more toward the neutral light output, you're going to have better results with things being illuminated in a more true color fashion. When you have a brighter, more harsh white, blue light, or also known as a higher frequency light, the colors get a little more washed out. They're not true to the eye. They're not natural. And so the more you can kind of find that happy medium in that, they call it a daylight spectrum. It's a little bit more warm compared to a lot of the whiter, bluer type of LEDs. They'll have a more true color reflection back to the eye. And so that's one thing to consider is the frequency of your LED emitter. That's going to be something that can help you, identify colors, which may actually give yourself a better chance of figuring out whatever the problem may be that you're trying to figure out. The next thing is going to be light output. Now, everybody's so concerned and into about how many lumens, once again, lumens do you have? Like this one has a maximum of 920 lumens. We have the little Streamlight micro stream here that this is just, this is the older, well, this is the last generation before the newest version. This is 35 lumens. And they both do just fine, though, for everyday task. And so you might be asking, why would you just need only 35 lumens if you have a 920 lumen? So there's a lot of confusion. And basically, lumen output is going to be your overall amount of light that the light is just generating from the actual the front. And so right from the very beginning, how much light comes out. And so, yes, the more light you have, the more you can probably do with it. Now, there are some situations you want to have the ability to kind of dim it down, and you don't need that much light. Maybe too much light is actually dangerous because it reflects too much light back to you. Maybe you're in a very reflective area, and that if you had too much light coming back, it could blind you. And there's a lot of other reasons too. Maybe you want to have stealth capabilities, and you don't need very much. Like this light can get down around 10 lumens. There's a lot of lights that can go down to maybe like half a lumen. They call that twilight, mode, or a moonlight mode. So there's a lot of different modes. And they have strobe, like this one also has beacon mode and SOS. And there's a lot of those fancy smancy things that you really don't need typically. It's nice to maybe have one in your pack if you have like a bug out bag or get home bag to have those modes. But your everyday carry, though, doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, maybe just having a low, medium, and high is going to work. Or maybe a moonlight, medium and high, or something like that is all you really need. And so when we're talking about output, though, yes, it's good to have that range of lumens. But it's also something we have to consider is the Condola. Something that really does get missed. It's starting to get a little bit more attention nowadays of the Condola. And just for example, Streamlight does a really good job of having higher Condola. And Condola is really the concentration of light at one point. So, for example, like it's the combination really of of how much spot in one spot of the throw. So on the other end of this light, at whatever distance, there's a certain candela. And so that's the concentration of light versus if you had a floodlight that was all distributed, it would have a lot lower candela. So the more spot that the light, more of a spotlight or less flood, I should say, has a higher candela. The more flood has the lower candela. So hopefully that's just a little bit helpful because it just kind of concentrates the light into a little bit more of a narrow beam. And so you have a more focused light pattern. And that gives you the higher candela. So now when we talk about, the different types of lights, we have headlamps, of course, flashlights. Some flashlights, though, are kind of like both. You have like this. You can see here the clip kind of has this S-curve almost to it. And you could put this on the brim of a hat. That one's probably about the largest I would go. This one as well. As you can see, it has a recurve here. And there's actually two pieces. In fact, two different kind of clips. And so let's just look at this a little bit. You can see that recurve and see that right here, there's actually a little piece. And it's a little hard to show you this in one, but here we go. I got my fingernail in there. You can see the other piece, and that could just be slipped right on the bill of a hat. This thing doesn't weigh almost anything. And so, having these options to take a flashlight, convert it into a headlamp, or at least something that could be a makeshift headlamp on top of the brim of a hat, or you could clip it on a piece of clothing or on a buckle of a loop, like a belt buckle loop, or even a belt. These things can really be quite helpful. And so when we talk about light output, we also want to talk about frequencies of light, not just the frequency of the LED, but the actual color of the LED. And so, we typically think of, the bright, harsh white and the blue is the upper frequency, the more warmer, kind of a yellowish tone is the warmer tones for the visible spectrum. But in terms of trying to preserve our night vision, even though there's other colors for other more very specific purposes. But for the average person, having a red mode could be something. Maybe not so much on your everyday carry light, but maybe your headlamp, maybe your lantern. So if you want to get that lower light setting, but to preserve your night vision, that's definitely another way to go. So these are just some considerations to help build your foundation. Light output is a major factor when we're talking about your everyday carry. Stay tuned. We'll have more on this series talking about individual items to help you build your everyday carry so you can be prepared every day.